Anyway, okay, so I'm Keith. For those of you who don't know me, and I think everybody pretty much does. The real guy, Michael, who is the owner, is back there taking your money. If you like that. And I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan. I'm not going to say much. Welcome to White Rose, and enjoy the presentation. So, Jonathan?
Okay. Quick question. Who hasn't paddled with me yet? All right, I'm talking to you. The other guys, no correcting me. I do a little bit to make it more interesting. You will have to go with it. Can you hear me at the back?
Yes.
Good. Well, I could say problem. I can't necessarily hear you. I've got 2 degrees in acoustics and bad ears. So if there's questions, yell it out. But I'll try and keep it loud and lively. You've all read that? Wind in the Willows, 1910. I just want to say, he's named as Rat in the book, but it's actually a waterfall. Why they promote him to Rat, I don't know. Okay, here we are. This is the presentation to get you interested, if you aren't already, in progressing in canoe camping. I call it canoe camping, some call it canoe tripping. It's the same thing. It's basically messing about the boat with a tent. Who knows where that is? Right, very good. The Portland Trail's on the left. We didn't actually come down the Allagash Falls there. Pretty neat place. Back one here. In terms of credibility, I've been canoe tripping for quite a long time, camping by the river. I swear for the first 20 years I didn't know what I was doing. And then I sort of learned how to steer the boat and make it go where I wanted to do it, improve the conditions. So what I'm here is to tell you about some of the things I've learned over those years, and to basically give you a progression that you might want to use to become a canoe camper. So I won't necessarily read every slide because I think you're all basically literate, but we'll talk about some of these things. And one that's sort of fun for me is that one right down the end there, getting kids involved. It turned out well. Now, political statement here. You read that, I can read it for you. I can't do the French Quebec accent, but I love it. What sets a canoe expedition apart is it purifies you more rapidly and escapably than any other. Travel 1,000 miles by train and you are en route. Pedal 500 on a bicycle and you remain basically a bourgeois. Paddle 100 in a canoe and you're already a child of nature. Or in the condition of such a trip that you would trust yourself, stripped of your worldly goods, nearly all of them, to nature. Here, Elliot Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, we're back live, okay? No place to spend money, no gift shops. Really good deal. And you've got to feed them anyway. So, you know. By the way, that there is the current Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau. His dad got him into it. He's actually Prime Minister for another 2.5 weeks. We won't talk about that. But it must be in a country where you had a canoe nut at the helm, CEO, for nearly half of the last 55 years. So, okay, so why is it fun? Try to sell it to you, but I will anyway. You get to go to really nice remote places, places you only get to it. You're self-sufficient. This is good stuff. You get to basically know that what you've got with you is all you're going to have. You get to make relevant decisions, like how do I stay dry? How do I stay fed? None of the other stuff really matters. You get down the river, you leave the world behind. I find it takes 3 or 4 days, but it can be done. You actually forget about the what's beyond the horizon. You get to paddle. You're probably here because you like paddling. You get to do lots of it. And people say, is it like backpacking? Well, yes and no. Your scenery goes by faster, and you can carry more tasty food with you with backpack. And you go with good chums, you get to know them quite well. So, my background, I sort of said I've been doing this for 40 years, more or less. Started on the Saco, and progressed a fair bit. I would say definition of the tripping is at least one night, one overnight on a commercial campground, probably. No resupply, probably. You have to have the discipline that if it's not with you when you start, you're going to do without it. Some of the trips are kid friendly. It's nice to take the family. It's something you can get involved. Driving. Spring and fall trips. For people who've been on spring trips, fall trips, where you haven't seen another body on the river. Some of the beginners make a good experience, lead as well, blah, blah, blah. This is my sister. She is originally a Londoner. She's the sort of person who puts full makeup on to go down to the mailbox. Took her on the Saco, on the Allagash, and she loved it. She says she still gets weepy about thinking about week-long on the river. This is my wife's cousin, who was a New York police officer. Again, took her out of the environment. She had a great time. So they didn't want to come back. Oh, and beware of raising a river rat. There we are. So 1.5-year-old, sorry, nearly 2-year-old daughter. There she is on the guiding of the Salmon River in Idaho. So yes, can happen. Push button pointed in the right direction.
Quick question, the blood vein, is that in Ontario?
Is that Ontario?
Yeah.
Blood vein, yeah.
Blood vein is Ontario.
Okay, thank you.
So Ontario into Manitoba. Let's see if we get this to progress. Pointed in the right direction. Oh, there we are. No. So about freakiness here. So there we are. Progression. I talked about this. The basic, you start really small. This is where I first did the paddle in the water. Place called the Peter Pan Paddling Pool in Catford, which is a rather rough bit of South London. Very nicely, I get taken there on Saturday afternoon and sit out in a little Indian canoe, and the water was about 18 inches deep. So it was a good place to enjoy an afternoon. And progression, camping trips on relatively flat water, lakes, with the kids, up until here we are on the St. John, coming out of the Class 3 section. Here we are on Blood Vein, coming down the sluice, and there we are. You were there on the, what was the river? I can never say it in the same sentence as just Blood Vein again. Bonaventura.
Bonaventura, yes, sorry, yes.
So, your skills, both camping and paddling, can progress along with your trip. You don't have to get good at the beginning. Okay, so the first steps. Anyone not been on the Saco? All right, good. To you. So this is examples of a place where you can do your first toe in the water. Overnight trips, weekend trips, not too serious places to go. Saco in Maine, the Umbagog Lake as this comes, we have to take a run at that. Has bookable island sites where you can get out to the island, at camp. If all else fails, they'll bring you back. Pawcatucket, Rhode Island. This is a secret. Down there in Rhode Island, there's a piece that looks a bit like Maine. You can camp on the Wood River and the Pawcatucket River. Nice place. And the Connecticut River, again, another beginner's river. There's now a series of campsites down the northern part of the Connecticut River that will allow you to. Oh, there we go. Back to talking about the Saco. This bit here is a zoo. It was worse, but it was a zoo still. Used to take the kids there, picnic on the beach, watch the 20 people fall out of their boats. But you put it here and go down to Hiram, you can be quite local. And there's nice camp, sandbars to camp on. So not a bad idea as an alternative to being in the zoo up there. The whole point of this is you get, 20 miles on the river with hardly any distance for the shuttle, which is why it's so popular. Here's the
What were those towns again? The put in and the takeout, what were the towns?
Sorry, again, I have to come to you.
The put ins and the takeouts.
Okay, so you put, I believe the put in I recommended is still in, Freiburg. And then the further takeout. Back up. So put in there, Route 302 bridge, which is where the outfit is taking everybody out. You can go down to a day trip down there or a 2-day trip down to Hiram, where there is a lady who lets you park on her lawn and you pay $2 or something. Leave your car there. Okay, there's the examples. We can begin for you to see they're all relatively close to home, 2 or 3 hours away from central New Hampshire, for instance, not too far from Massachusetts. Characteristics are you can probably self-shuttle. You don't have to deploy an outfit. As long as you've got 2 people, 2 cars involved, easy. You can bail out. There's places that the kids aren't enjoying it, or you're already enjoying it, or you run out of tonic for the gin and tonic. You can get out of there. Good places for shakedown. Anything that will float will do. You don't really need to have any paddling skills. I certainly proved that on the first few trips I ever did on the Saco, and it's not too far from home. The pictures of some of these places, which I like to show. There's the Lake Umbagog. That's just the other side of the White Mountains. Literally littered with really rather nice campsites, individual sites, group sites, all administered from the state park headquarters down there. You book the site so you know there's nobody else going to be trying to sit on it and paddle on in. Or I believe if you ask them very nicely or give them money, they'll take you in on their pontoon boat. Same a bit further north on Lake Missisquoi, which is same deal as a campground down here called Grey Owl, and they'll sign you up for some of their remote sites. This is the Connecticut River. Again, a new resource, because there's now campsites being organized on the river every few miles, and prove that we're really rather broad-minded. We're on a trip with not 1 but 2 kayaks, and as long as the kayaks bring their own kit with them and load it and don't throw it all in the tandem boats, they are most welcome. Back to the Saco. This is going into Pleasant Pond. This is on the Saco. You go down this little narrow stream and you come out into a lake that seems as if it's 1 million miles away. There is no shoreline development. It's beautifully remote. And there's the one bit of quick water on the Saco at Walker's Bridge. Adjustable. Still good. So now you've got that under your belt, it's time to start thinking a bit beyond a multi-night trip. That didn't work, but I won't read it, but basically further away, places where you can spend several nights on the river. Most likely it'll require a shuttle. You're committed, you probably can't bail. If you're in one end, you're probably going to come out the other. You're going to need canoes that will bounce off rocks, probably. You need to be really good at camping. You don't need to be really good at paddling. And nothing on this list is more than class 2 at the very worst. Because there's little or no portages, you can take fresh food with you. This is quite important because my crew mostly come for the food, not for the paddling. They're feeling well, they're not happy. But in some cases, you're dealing with lakes or potentially low water, so keep an eye on the weather and know what's coming. But great rewards in terms of remoteness and satisfaction. And I'm just going to point out the Allagash strip here to show that again. This is just from Churchill Downs on down to Rhode Farm. It's a great 5-day trip. You get all the best bits of the Allagash. You get a bit of lake, you get a little bit of white water, you get wonderful scenery, but you can get it done in a week or less. So a bit more about that coming up. We will get. There we are. So some pictures of some of the things I'm talking about. Is begin looking at maps, much nicer look at pictures. And so what I did was I drew these up. I'll press the button enough time to come up. There we are. So here's the famous Chase Rapids on the Allagash River. Who hasn't done that? Well, who has done that this time around? Okay. It's the fun bit. It's class 2. It is down the lease, so that you know you're going to get down there. I've probably done that 20 times and only fell in once. And I fell in with my daughter there when she was 11. And we tipped the boat, we got it upright, emptied, collected the candy and the water bottles before my buddy came round the corner. So it's a totally unrecorded event. But here she is on Chase Rapids a few years ago. And I think she had this habit of qualifying her boyfriend. If they couldn't handle this sort of thing, they were out. This chap made it for a few years. But the recent one is the real thing. We were there last year. And wonderful when you introduce in this case, 18-month-old, by the way, and every other year they're asking you to organize a canoe trip for them. Pretty good. Now, the whole point of the slide was, look, the boat's empty. On Chase Rapids, the rangers will take all your gear. They take it 6 miles down the river and allow you to bounce down that class 2 section in a empty canoe, which makes it fun and much less nerve-wracking. And if you don't want to do it at all, they'll take you and your boat manual down. $10 they charge, and it's been the same since about 1980, and it's the best deal that is anywhere. All right. So, for a more romantic location, should we call it Lobster Lake off the West Branch Penobscot? It is I say the best white sand beach this side of the Caribbean. It is a very nice place. It points straight at the sunset. It's easy to get to. Henry David Thoreau missed it. He came to about over there, saw his moose, turned round, and never made it into Lobster Lake. So Henry David, but he made a couple of mistakes like that as well. But it's a great place, and again, easy to get to. No serious paddling involved. You come out of here, you paddle on down to Chesuncook Village on Chesuncook Lake, and it's a nice place. Here's my happy place, which is on the Jaws campsite on Churchill Lake on the Allagash. I've probably been camping at that spot at least every other year for the past 30 years. I've got 30 overall trips on the Allagash, which I don't know, I just keep doing it. We have to talk about this year. But anyway, it's one of my favorite places to fetch up. Oh, and this is a typical Allagash campsite. You have the fireplace, you have the picnic table, you have the ridgepole to put the tarp up, which can be very important. And you've got forest behind you to go foraging for dry wood for the campfire. Okay, now just one more. I mentioned the St. Croix River. This is the boundary between United States and Canada. That is the maximum piece of that. There's one class 2 pitch, which the Canadians are running, and us Americans were persuaded that we had to port it on the river right, which wasn't necessary at all, in my opinion. But you always go with the most timid, well, maybe the second most timid person in the group. All right, now we're getting into a bit more serious. We're going step up trips. We're going places where you do need a bit of skill. Examples, the St. John. St. John is a classic New England trip. You only run it in the spring, probably in the end of May, beginning of June. It has no headwater lakes, so there is spring runoff. That's what you get. There's no running. It's got a couple of class 3 rapids that are big and long. One of them is called Big Rapid for a good reason. The other one is called Big Flat Rapid. It's not very good with names. round ponds. Anyway, so now we've got places to go. The whole of the Allagash, all the lakes, all the way down to Port Kent if necessary. The Machias River, that's another spring challenge. A fair amount of, potentially a fair amount of portaging, but real rapids and again, lonely because you don't see other people. And the Bonaventura, Bob and I know about this. It is a 4 or 5 day trip up there in the Gasway Peninsula. Has got some interesting rapids on it. Not killer, but interesting. So, I can go back one here. So, just the distinctions here. You will need a shuttle. You are committed. You will need ABS or whatever passes for that today. You need tough canoes. You need a moderate level of kayak skills and a high level of paddling skills. And what I call defensive paddling, which is I'm in a loaded boat. What I want to do is find the safest way down this river. And if it means hopping from eddy to eddy to eddy, or going behind the rocks and doing all those things, so be it. Not blasting ahead. Oh, look at me going through these holes. As my daughter, elder daughter. You may need what I call lake awareness. I'm on this lake. It's windy. Do I see whitecaps? If the answer is yes, you either go around the edge or wait till tomorrow or do something or get up very early. If the answer is no and the wind's blowing over your shoulder, it's because they're probably there, but you can't see them. You can't see whitecaps from upwind. So, the only thing that scares me about this stuff is being out on a lake with waves coming up, and what do I do? We've only got about that much to the water line, and the boat, especially the float. So, maybe some portages. You may have to get into some dry food. Think about all the other things you have to think about. But the one thing I've never had to think about is bears. People say, oh, I've got to get a bear box and hang it up. I've never had a ranger or anybody warn me about bears in New England. And I've never seen one except on the driveway. Never seen one at the campsite in question. So the good news is some of these places are really remote. Won't see many people, and they are very satisfying to have achieved. Yep, I did that. Okay, a few pictures of it, some of these examples. There's my buddies coming out of Big Black on the St. John. And yes, they did have to bail when we got up there. I got pictures of that too. My wife was examining the engines, abandoned logging railroad up on Chamberlain Lake on the Allagash. Again, you get these rewards for taking these longer trips. You get places that you would not otherwise get to go and see. And finding out basically an abandoned railway is pretty neat, especially for the there. That's the St. John. This is the Penobscot Chowder Paddle and Chowder Society, which we ran into. And we got the shelter first, so they had to camp in the snow out on the flat bit. Coming down on the Bonaventura, and one of our Canadian friends who ran it there to go. The rest of us carried around. And this is what happens if you believe the out-of-date guidebook. This is on Machias. The Machias guidebook from about 1985 said there is a dam there, and that further right there is a class 2. So we sort of counted wrong. Said, oh look, that must be the class 2. Away straight over the edge, bonk, 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 and yes, 2 out of 3 boats swamped. One made it down. And look at that happy smile. Another Englishman, you see. There's nothing going to happen, nothing bad can happen. But yeah, that was a fun day. And it also speaks to the value of tying your gear in. It wasn't tied in very, very pretty, but it all stayed in there. Okay. Canadian wilderness. So now you really want to go up beyond. What are the options? Well, there are places further north, which some of you have paddled already, which which are more challenging and more interesting. And I've done the blood vein. I think you've done
Mississippi.
oh, what's different? A different Missy River. But you've been up there, and there are further stages you can go. I haven't gone very far. To say a word about guided trips. They are, I say, a good way to learn the next steps if you want to get into this slightly more serious. Guides are particularly good at feeding you if there's not too many portages. I've been on two guided trips. One, there was no portage and the food was excellent. The other one, there was many portages and we would drive food for 12 days, which get a bit anyway, that, but there we are. Good thing about is a guided trip, it's somebody else's problem. And you've got to look after yourself, but all the big decisions are being an expert who's being paid to think about. And I've been in a situation where it really came in useful. And good way to step up. Now, we have one main guide here. I won't identify him, but he wants you to know that in US, a tip is expected. The trip I did with the on the flood vein with the English company, and they're one price. There's no tip expected. Might be bloody expensive. So that's possible. Oh, and here am I on the flood vein river I was referring to with my tandem partner was a chap called Ray Goodwin, who's like god of paddling in England. He was one of the organisers. And I like the fact that he has been honoured by the late Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth for services to the sport of canoeing. That's pretty good. And he got an MBE, which is Member of the British Empire, which is, I think, the same thing the Beatles started out. So it's like it's what they do that in England. It's sort of pat you on the head. You've done good things with your community, and you're really acknowledging. I really used to see him dressed up in his go to Buckingham Palace suit. I'm also very honoured the fact he got me in the river and screwed up getting it. All right. So planning. This is sort of the nitty-gritty stuff. What should you be thinking about if you're organising a trip? Well, first you've got the number of people. And I say 4 is good, 6 is probably perfect, 8 is catering, especially if you've got one person doing the cooking, which I think you do. 6 is particularly good on a remote trip, because if you lose one boat, you can probably put 3 in each of the remaining ones. It's sort of, you know, it's got a risk management aspect to it. Avoid duplication of gear. That's always fun. Make sure you don't end up with 6 of everything. Wood gathering skills. You can read all of this. I find that you don't necessarily have to have an expert in it in every boat. Way people add to their skills is coming along. This one here, mileage. Rough algorithm, you're doing, if you sit in a boat and paddle without killing yourself, you'll do 2 miles an hour. Now, if the current's doing another 2 miles an hour, so much. So yes, mind if the wind's blowing you back at 1 mile an hour, and maybe you're going to take time out before it. You've got to calculate your daily, how far you're going to travel in a day, and not kill yourself, unless you want to. So I always think it's nice to finish by mid-afternoon. You get the all right, experience there. Time of year, after ice out before it freezes. It is a long season. Down in Rhode Island, we are informed that the canoeing season has started. Weather, yes, okay. Lakes and wind. I talked about lakes and wind. If you're going to a trip which involves paddling across a big lake, you probably want to throw in an extra day if you're windbound, or have to wait until very late in the evening or very early in the morning. And we used to have a rule of wetsuits on for spring and fall paddling. I won't read the rest of it. Outhouses, yes, that's the sanitary arrangements. I call that luxury accommodation. Two of them. That's at the doors on the Allagash. There's the things we find on the Baskerhegan, Thunderbox, And otherwise, it's dig your own. Bring your own little shovel and, or paddle, paddles work, and dig your own. Planning 102, things that useful to know or information that's useful to get before you travel. Go and look up the stream flow. Find out whether it's a drought this year, whether the river's in flood. Anybody not done that? You're all expert. Well, basically USGS, land in the river, stream flow, you'll be able to look at it, see what's going on. What's rather more interesting is that if you go to another site organized by NOAA, National Oceanographic Administration, the Atmospheric Administration, they take the stream flow and add the weather to it and predict it out a few days. This is handy if you want to know what's going to happen, whether the river's going up or down. There is the AMC guides, which are also very handy documents. Other things, bugs. Bugs are, well, first thing in the spring, last thing in the fall, there's no bugs, right? Black flies. Did you know there's 22,000 species of black flies? And they're all hungry. They're all after you. They are a New England thing, particularly in June. And where they, I could never find a resource to predict black fly, except with one map where the guy put in basically, they're here the first week in May, they're here the second week in May, and they hardly got up to the north in last week in May. And I find that sort of works. First week in May, down on the coast, and you're okay last week in May, up north in May. I won't get, this is equipment, this is part of it. My particular suggestions in this is my fly boxes. They are square, they fit in the canoe beautifully, they have a O-ring seal, and they came from Petco. They're dry docking boxes. Always bring an axe and a saw. Had one outfitter who refused to leave base until I showed him the axe and the saw. No baby barrel takes it. Tarts, rope, yes, going to stay dry, can't get wet. Wash bowl, you don't think of that, it's awfully handy, especially if you have good wash bowl operators. We'll come to that in a minute. My favorite addition is welding gloves. You know, big oven mitts and welding gloves up to here. You are bulletproof working on a wood fire, you're not going to burn yourself on hot handlers. And it's a good thing. Oh, and duct tape and candy duct tape. I've still got that done. Making it happen. You've got to basically get people together and get them committed. Because somebody bugging out for not good reason. Oh, I didn't realize it was the weekend. Very often these trips require 2 weekends. One to get there, one to get back, and in between you do the traveling. So here you are. Sign them up, lock them up, 3 months notice, check every month, make it hard for them to back out. Which you know is important. Also, common goals. Make sure that everyone is there for the same reason. I say lazy days versus 30 mile an hour, 30-mile days. We know people who basically do this. Freeze fried, no lunch. Make sure you agree on where that trip falls. Willing to share chores. Hey, you can all read this. Group side, make sure you get in the campsite, make sure you figure out the meal plan, and make sure you have at least 2 guys who are happy and smiling doing the dishes.
I've never felt so much like a dish man.
There's a different happy group. How to get there? I'm not going to read this one. I just say that if you like paddling, you have to like driving. Because you're going to drive somewhere, probably drive back somewhere, and then drive back to that first somewhere again before you go home. And there's various permutations on that. There's various permutations on how you use a outfitter. Basically, drive to the takeout, get him to take you in, drive to the put-in, get him to bring you back there or take your car to them. I won't read that again, but it's all, it all needs thinking about and sometimes makes your brain explode. And here is the gold standard of outfitters in Allagash, from St. Francis, Northern Italian, who totally reliable and a good chap. I'm going to conclude almost by just showing you a few slides of what I call my trip of a lifetime. This is the Blood Vein River, starts in Ontario, ends up in Lake Winnipeg. This was my sort of retirement project when I finally properly retired. I said, I'd like to do this trip with my wife. She said, how much would it cost? And I told her, but I didn't tell her it was pounds, not dollars. So I went 230 kilometers, 150 named rapids. That's a lot. And it was 6 Brits, me, and a Dutchman. So I represented North America, which is a bit ironic, a bit strange, but there we are. I was thinking about sort of, American things. And the real key was 350 CFS. That's not a lot, draining an area the size of Rhode Island. So yes, it was a certain amount of paddle, a certain amount of not paddling, but it's a bit of a lifetime, organized by these two characters. And to get there, this is the other fun bit. First you take a plane, and then you take another plane. The second plane was at the Havilland Otter, and it was 9 years younger than me. And I would have paid actually the whole damn thing to fly on that plane. With the GPS strapped to the instrument panel. That was a navigation system. It had been upgraded. But I think the pilot knew where he was going. Anyway, we flew in, you landed at the lake, you brought the boats in one at a time, tucked us out, and said goodbye. And then we were alone. We were committed. And day one, we went and looked at petroglyphs, and I didn't get the picture of the real one I wanted to, which was a bunch of guys in a canoe from, I don't know, like 100 years old. And we had a little tobacco, because that's what we do, to appease the local spirits. And after that, there was lining, lots of lining. This was basically ledge drop lake for 100 and some miles. And you get good at lining, and you learn how to be cooperative and get the boats down there. These were carbon fiber boats, and the two guides, the two principals, decided we really needed to look after those boats. None of this banging down, bong, 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 bong. So the navigation was fun. We had a guidebook from a chap called Pat Wilson with all of the 150 named rapids in there. That was transferred to Canadian equivalent of the USGS and worked our way down. And it was lots of lakes, lots of flushes, if you were lucky. That was a class 3 rapid under normal conditions. And carries. Here we go. Lots of places like that, the river splits. Guys decide, go that way. I'm going, no, I'm a paying customer, I don't make decisions. And so there was a lot of this, oh dear, there's half a mile of carry over, I think that's where he dropped into the water. But it was fun. Particularly when we discovered that the river was on fire. A forest fire was going through, it had been through weeks before, it had closed, but it's closed the river and started again. So you come around and there's basically you can't see where you're going. And you go, whoops, what do we do now? Well, I didn't. The two guides, the two principals had to figure it out. And what we ended up doing was camping on this almost an island. Because figuring that would take longer to catch fire than even though there's grass here was very dry. Getting up every hour, check that the island wasn't on fire. And here he is checking in with head office to so that we set that boat to let them know that we are in a delicate position, quite before extraction. It was about the last place you get a float plane. But woke up in the morning, smoke had gone away, and off we went down the river. Which was fun. There was sits on the fire. That's what the camping situation looked like. Wonderful places to camp, wake up in the morning. That was one of the rather better campfires, was actually coming to sit on. I was the only one who bought a little folding chair with me. I forget age had that privilege. All the other Brits were squatting on the ground all the time. But one complaint, they made tea first thing in the morning and had to be reminded to make coffee next. They were sort of happy to get tea. Oh, so it's going to work. Okay, what you should see here is the two people coming around the corner here, trying to get out of their boat and slipping on the rocks twice. And I came along and I picked up the painter and hauled on the boat. So I'm not touching you, but you can come in. And that was meant to be a little animation. So there we are. There we are. So there we are. Day 13. We come out at the end. We're almost at Lake Winnipeg. Maine Village, First Nation, which is the Canadian term for their population that got there first. Little village there, 130 people, and we end up out there looking at Lake Winnipeg. We had to go the last mile so we could say we'd seen the lake. There's the crew. We get to go on a trip, take one of those. The Dutchman, where he was 7 foot. We carry 1 barrel each, he carries 2. The outfitter looked at him and said, portage machine. And he was right. So there we are. So, end of trip celebration. And yes, we did see bears, but not till we got to the town dump in Rhode. The driver said, you want to see bears? I'll take you to see bears. And there was like 3 of them lined up on the hill there. Okay, so that was my capstone project. I mean, it was my trip of a lifetime. I still think about it and look at those slides. So we're finding up here canoe trips sometimes develop rituals, and this is our ritual, which I was reminded by, was it you? Somebody had put in here the 6:30 or sundown gin and tonic. 1 gin and tonic issued to all participants. No, you can't help you can sit in that chair when the sun goes down with the G&T in your hand, and then we'll go to supper. It has one other piece of advice, which you asked my kids what my advice for camping is. They'll say, know where your flashlight is before you have the cocktail. It might be too dark to find it. All right, camping with kids. This is my experience. This is my sort of one of the happy things about my experience canoe camping. Started off with that one with about 1, 2, and that one with 1.5 on the Saco. Progressed from other overnights on the Saco. We started on the Allagash at age 6 and 10. And there's the entire Ludlow tribe in one Mad River Explorer. 1, 2, 3, 4. Younger daughter spent the 3 days sitting on the stern plate there, happy as a clown. Paddling didn't always help, but they got into it. We had nice weather. We didn't go too long every day. The snack barrels up the front there. They came back for more. Here we are on the bow trip, on the moose bow trip, and here she is, the current boyfriend of last year. This one turned into a raft guide and kayaker, and this one led outdoor trips for her school. So I consider that a success. And as I say, she's still young and they're still good at setting up with. So there we are. Actually, close up with the end of the trip there. All of us in one boat. Wouldn't fit now. So, a bunch of pictures. It's been a happy time. I really, really wish to promote this activity and basically say, if you don't do it, try it. And if you do it, do it some more. So, and with, see you on the river, hopefully. in a campsite. Hopefully with your camping. That's all, folks. Thank you. Any questions?
Have you had the same green Mad River canoe for that long?
Yes, that was a wedding present. 14 years ago this August, and it's still an active service.
See?
So yes, and I have another one as well.
Have you ever heard of the Niobrara River in Nebraska?
The which river then?
Niobrara. It's just as a general comment, it's a real gem.
I
It's maybe class 1, class 2, 1 or 2 days canoe camping, but it's absolutely beautiful. If you're ever in the Midwest
okay.
and you want a canoe,
So-
I highly recommend it.
For some reason, I've never strayed far out of New England under my own steam, but I understand there are plenty of trips out there which are worth doing. And you might see bears.
No, you won't see bears. You'll see bison. You'll see elk. I mean, it's really. I don't know why it just popped into my head. It's been a long time since I lived in the Midwest. I was in the military, and I used to take my daughter to Girl Scout for camping, and somebody recommended it, and we just had the greatest time. Beautiful landscape of all. You wouldn't think Nebraska. Yeah. It's really something. Look it up. Niobrara, Niobrara. It's in Valentine, Nebraska. It goes through a wildlife refuge at the beginning, and then there are people out there partying, I guess, on the weekends. So, but it's it's the Midwest, so it's not too bad.
How long a paddle did you do on that river? Is that Dan speaking?
Could you say again?
How long a paddle did you do on that river?
On which river?
The Niobrara.
Oh, okay. I'll suggest.
I paddled it for 2 days.
Okay.
Pretty short.
Yeah.
But there are campsites along the way. And it's just surprising scenery you wouldn't expect in the Midwest.
Park Service said they did 76 miles of bowling fun.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't mean to, I thought it was.
Anyone else who's watching online, if you unmute yourself, feel free to ask questions. Don't wait for it.
All right. Well, I have to say once again, thank you. And thank you for the folks at home.
Thank you.
Oh, what's that? One more
I
question.
know your cooking is.
I got to come to you, remember?
Your cooking is legendary. Can you kind of talk about what some of your prized meals are?
Prized meals. Yes, because I have a standard menu. More or less, the first night we will have salmon, which is salmon. Sorry, beg your pardon. First night haddock, breadcrumbs, because it's easy to cook fish. Next night there will probably be salmon if it was haddock first night. Salmon the second night, then shrimp. Basically in the onions and a bit of half and half, and alternating vegetables, alternating boiled potatoes, boil in the bag rice. Don't usually pasta much. Potatoes and boil in the bag rice. Getting adventurous, we might used to bring a reflector oven and bake basically frozen bread dough, which of course it now had unfrozen, expanding in the pack. We catch it in time. Other meals would be
breakfasts.
okay. I'll tell you what. I was going to go. But there's all kielbasa is always the last night because that keeps, and chicken curry is a common one. The breakfast, which I think is my trademark, is I was taught it as Girl Scout eggs. Well, now it's called eggs in a hole. You take a piece of bread, you will take a about yay-sized piece out of the middle of it, and you put it in the frying pan. You start it frying. You drop an egg in the middle. You put the other bit into fry as well. Turn it over, and you've got this handy sort of breakfast eggy, pretty thing. And you can turn those out 2 or 3 at a time on a decent sized fry pan and make people happy. So that's, those are the main. Making me hungry now.
A quick question, are you talking about a skillet and how do you keep that from going to the bottom of the river?
So somewhere back there, I have a picture of my plastic tote box, which was, I think, bought from REI, and it was a Rubbermaid box with clips on it, and that is my kitchen box, and that has in it the cups, saucers, plates, frying pan handle comes off, so that's the skillet. Everything goes in there, and it never goes anywhere else. So it doesn't go back into general supply for kitchen use. It's the camping kit. That box fits nicely between the thwarts in a canoe and is strapped in with a strap. I've got a D-ring at the front of the boat and a D-ring towards the back, and one strap goes around everything. That's the basic retention. Haven't lost anything yet. Hardly at all.
The other thing was, you didn't mention the Merrimack River, but one of my favorite all-time canoe camping experiences has been many of them. I don't know if you did it, but between Boscawen and Concord is a place we call the Clay Place. It's full of kaolin clay and coat yourself. And your children can too. Everybody there participates in the series.
Okay, so that's it.
Boscawen, New Hampshire.
Okay, so is that an official legal camping spot?
I was brought there by the Merrimack River watershed.
Okay, that would do it. Okay, good, good, good. I've heard of people.
But there are plenty of rednecks there too.
Okay. I've heard of
black powder store.
people so-called wild camping on the Merrimack. I wasn't aware of any sort of legit camping place.
Oh, no, it gains its legitimacy from the neighborhood.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, Boscawen, New Hampshire. It's right below the confluence of the Merrimack and where the Merrimack starts, where the Winnipesaukee and the Pemigewasset come together.
That's
You can do either of those. And they're,
That's
you
a
know,
very
different.
nice stretch of river.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
extra convenient because it has a bike trail, rail trail. And we've frequently done, like I call it biathlon. You bike up, paddle down, and then bike up and paddle back to your car and then go back to your bike. Oh,
Do you have any solo camping?
solo camp. No. Not since I was 18 or 19. Slept on the hillside a couple of times in what was then Yugoslavia. But that's another land, another story. So I don't think I've solo camped, but I can't remember it. All right.
Thank you, officer.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you again. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
If you didn't get a t-shirt last time and you want one, grab one. They are all excellent. So, yeah, I feel like they-
Where would you like the chair to go? Seven. Yeah.